Dear African entrepreneur, today we're discussing something that is often overlooked. How do you change your sole proprietorship, your business that you alone run, into an actual functional bigger business? It's an odd way of saying it, but how do you move from doing something on your own to making it a company where you have other people involved, where you have other people supporting you and actually having the structures to make it stand? Now, it's an essential topic, but most people gloss over it. Operations management is the lifeblood of every business, whether you're in manufacturing, whether you're in the service industry, whether you have a product, it doesn't matter. If your operations are bad, your business will suffer. Let me explain why. Operations management is basically how you put things together to deliver your good or your service. So, how do you put things together to ensure that you can serve your customer in any way, shape, or form? In a sense, it's how do you make sure you manage your businesses day to day to ensure that you have effective service delivery and you are able to do so efficiently. I'll also add consistently. So, you have your business. Let's find something interesting today. You have a graphic design business. This is an interesting one. A graphic design business that you are the main person who does the designs. So you're a sole proprietorship. Ordinarily, you don't need anyone else. So you begin and you are the face of the business. You do all the work and everything is going fine. When is the right time to bring on more staff? When is the right time to actually grow the business? When is the right time to change from being a one-person business to a larger business? You're a fashion designer, you're a seamstress, you're a tailor. When do you move from being the one who does everything from cutting, sewing, designing, to actually getting on board a team, to how many people should you get on board? How do you decide that for your business? When is it right for you to change your business from a sole proprietorship or sole trader to a limited liability company or an LLC, depending on the market that you're in? Dear African entrepreneur, there are a few questions that you need to first answer, things you need to establish before you rush in and you change your business and it fails on you. Number one, your growth is what will determine whether to increase and change your business. What do I mean by growth? Well, if you are running your own tailoring business, your own fashion business, where you do all the cutting, the sewing, the designing, pattern making, all of the many steps that it takes to actually produce an outfit, you're doing fine. However, it so happens that you begin doing very well and you have a lot of demand. And suddenly, you being one person are not able to produce enough clothes. That is an amazing time for you to bring other people on board. Effectively, more demand means you have a need to increase and grow your business. So growth means that it's time to move from a sole proprietorship, a sole trader, to bringing on board a team. Secondly, if you are no longer available, now, there could be any number of reasons. You could have recently had a child, it could be illness, it could be that you have relocated, it could be that there's another opportunity that you've identified that you're working on. Anything that means you don't have enough time for your business means it's the right time for you to bring on board other people. Now, when I say you don't have enough time for your business, that means the business is doing well, it's going well. But you, as the sole proprietor, you, as the individual that is the key person behind the business, is unable to fulfill the duties that are required. And finally, the third reason that I can think of immediately, that would be a good reason to expand your business, change from being a sole proprietor or the solo person running the business, is financial. Perhaps you're getting on board an investor and the investor wants to know that, there's a team that can put things in place. There's a team that can deliver. Also, sometimes there are tax benefits to being, instead of just a sole proprietor, to be an LLC, a company. So you actually have some benefits. So that's a good reason to bring on board more people. And then there's another one that people don't often remember, but you're taking on debt. If anyone is lending to you, they want to know that you have a business set up. They don't want to be dealing with one person. And the key thing is, If you are ill or God forbid you die, what's the business going to do? Your business should be able to move on. A friend of mine just experienced this. He had a business that was exporting chili peppers. So he grows the chili peppers, he dries the chili peppers, and he exports to Europe. Unfortunately, he passed. One of the first questions that I asked the team was, what happens next? And is the business going to disappear now that he's no longer there? And luckily, what I was told is there's a team in place, there's a CFO in place, there are other people in place such that even though he's not around, the business can continue. So the contracts can still be fulfilled, his investors will still be able to get return, and essentially the business will go on. That is what you want. You want a business that would outlive you. And if you want a business that will outlive you, then you need to move from just being a sole proprietor or just a solo business person to setting up a proper company. So you've answered these three questions, and at least two or more of them are real to you, are true for you. And that means you need to move from being just the main person, the only phone number, the only face, to having a team. How do you get a team together? Who do you hire first? What are the most critical roles? How do you identify the best person to bring on board? Well, guess what? You have to first map out and document. You have to map out exactly what it takes to do your job. So, in the instance of the tailor has to then say, okay, I need to take a drawing, I need to draft a pattern, I need to cut the pattern, I need to identify the fabric, I need to cut the fabric, I need to then stitch it, and I need to finish it. Okay, so all these steps have to be mapped out. And the ideal thing is that you as a sole proprietor, you as the main business person, would write it exactly how you do it. Meaning that's where you have your own little flair. If there's a way in which you do certain things, you map it out, you write it out, you document every single process. Now, this process documentation seems like it's a lot of work, but it is so essential, and I'll explain why. It's essential that you document the processes because then you can identify which ones do I need the most support in. Maybe for the tailor in this example, it might be that he needs people who are just going to cut, or he needs people who are just going to make the patterns, or he needs people who are going to stitch, for example, just the sleeves. Or, I mean, there are people who just focus on buttonholes, or maybe they focus on trousers, pants. Whatever it is, once you identify the entire process and you look within yourself and say, which one can I fulfill? Which one is most critical? Which one can I train people to join? Those are the ones that I wouldn't call them outsource, but those are the ones that you split up and give to other people to do. So now you've identified which steps you need in order to be able to do your job well, or in order for the business to continue. And then you say, okay, which one is easiest to find? For example, if you're in a market like Nigeria, there are so many people that sew, and there are so many people that are amazing at, for example, finishing. So you would say, I can do everything else, but I want people to finish the products for me. So that can be what you basically bring someone on board to do, meaning you're still able to increase your productivity because you can do the other steps fast, but someone comes in to finish, and that's the critical piece that you need. At the same time, let's change the business instead of something that is a product. Let's change the business to service. Service, let's talk about someone who is a graphic designer. Now, for a graphic designer, it's tricky because things like design are a little subjective, highly subjective, and sometimes there might be a specific style that you have. Now, it's up to you to say, okay, I need someone who I can sketch, and that person can then recreate that in Photoshop, Canva, whatever it is that you use. And once you have that in place, then maybe that is the system that you put in place, meaning you meet the clients, you identify what the clients want, you do the sketches, and the person basically creates, and you give feedback to the person who creates. Now, in order to do that, you still need to put a process in place such that the person doesn't come to you for every single thing. So sometimes you realize that with a graphic designer, they'll suddenly get an accounts executive. What's the accounts executive doing? They are the ones who are having the meetings with the clients. They are the ones who are basically trying to extract what the requirements of the clients are. And then they come and they brainstorm with the team, because by then maybe he's hired one or two other graphic designers. They brainstorm with the team, and then the team comes up with ideas, which are then shared. And then that feedback comes again, and you get the final work. Now, this is more efficient, or it should be more efficient and should still be productive. So, such that by bringing on board a team, his work is not slow or the business isn't slowed down. It shouldn't be that in the quest to grow or in the quest to meet demand, processes are slowed down, it becomes more inefficient. So the first thing that we had to do was map and document, map out your processes, map out your everything that you do and document. And then the second one was basically you're trying to clone or trying to split yourself. So whatever it is that you do, you're trying to clone and get someone who can do certain aspects of the same thing, or you're basically trying to split yourself so that the various aspects are tackled by someone else. And then there's the final, well, two final pieces. You need quality control. Quality control is something that you as the business owner does intrinsically that you're not probably aware. You as the owner of the brand, you as the one who is the baker, you do a lot of quality control. There are things that are unconscious and things that you most probably missed when you were mapping out. It's because you're used to it. That's a part of your process. But once you begin to teach someone else your process and you say, oh, this is this aspect, and you realize, there's still something missing. Maybe you might notice that, at this stage, I usually adjust, I usually correct, I usually, you know, perfect things. And that is why you need to have a quality control process. Sometimes it can be a person, other times it can be a set of steps that you will ask your team members to follow to ensure that the quality is set. For things that are in the creative space, for example, you might have a process where you say to the graphic designer team, let's just keep that example going. You might have a process where you say to the team, once you're done with the drawing, once you're done with the design, go back to the client's brief and check if it answers all the questions. Or you might develop like a questionnaire, which are guidelines and tools, which means that the graphic designer or the team members, once they're done with the work, go back and make sure that all that they've done is aligned. Are they following the brand guide? Are they following the fonts? Are they understanding the ethos of the business? Just these are things that you often do unconsciously, but once you're teaching someone else, or you have someone who's doing part of your work, you need to also let them have it. And it's ideal that these things are documented. The reason why you want to document it, it can even become systematized and a checklist, meaning check, 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 check. It reduces the error. It's something that a lot of restaurants don't do, and it's insane. The very best restaurants in the world are consistent. That's why McDonald's is known as one of the best restaurants because there is a consistency in their processes, and a Big Mac in anywhere in the world is a Big Mac anywhere in the world. Taste is consistent, quality is consistent, consistency in terms of how the meat tastes is consistent. Now that's because they have standardized how they do it. So if you have a restaurant and you're serving grilled chicken and mashed potatoes, guess what? The formula for how you make the mashed potatoes should not be deviated from. How you season the chicken should not be deviated from. But it only works if you've documented it and you say to your team, here, this is the pin of the items. This is exactly the steps you follow to get the perfect chicken or the perfect mashed potatoes. Or not even just the word perfect, to get the mashed potatoes and the chicken the way that we do it, because you have a unique twist to it. So company A, your beautiful company, is consistent because it does it in this way. Fast food is a great example because fast food companies have understood process management and how to make things systemized, how to make things consistent, and how to maintain quality. And the final thing is feedback. If you're running your own business, if you are the sole proprietor, the sole trader, you have ways that you solicit feedback they are often unaware of. The moment you are no longer the face of the business or you're no longer the only one in the business, you still need a way to get feedback. I'll share an example with you. In my natural hair business, one of the ways that I get feedback is I have my phone number up, I have my email is available, and Instagram and social media is used to get feedback. But I don't just leave it to the team to give me the feedback. What I do is I go through the messages. I go and I check to make sure that things are being responded to. I go to try and sift things out. And I've also created a culture where if there's a problem, they are better served to let me know that this is the problem. And we have a group that we have the complaints in. So Anything that happens, the complaint is shared with me, and then we discuss how to solve it. Because at the end of the day, feedback is how you can improve upon your operations and how you can ensure your business stands. If you don't take the feedback, you won't know what's going on. You cannot improve. So to create a culture within the team that you can get feedback is amazing. But you also need to put the channels in place so that they can actually give you the feedback. I hope this was helpful. If you follow these steps, I guarantee you, you'll be able to know which roles to hire for, what the people are supposed to do when they come. They will know exactly what they're supposed to do when they come. You'll be able to check if they're doing what they are supposed to do when they join the team. And ultimately, you'll be able to get feedback to see whether your clients, who are the custodians of the business, they are the ones who hold the business, if your clients are liking the quality of what they are being served. If you found this interesting, share your own examples. Is there anything that I missed? You can also drop that in the comments. Let's have a discussion. How do you change your business from being solely dependent on you to a company or an enterprise that involves more? Thank you.